All right, so I got my print copies of Treacheries of the Troublesome Towns, Tome 1 and 2, and in this video, I'm going to walk through the creation of an actual town. What I'm not going to do is play in that town. I'm not going to start by following the rules here that begin with creating your party first and then making a town. I'm not going to do that because I really want to just demonstrate what it is that the town offers. So that's one note. And the second note is I have not done this yet. So I'm not really familiar with the rules of actual town creation. I've looked through it just hardly at all beyond the video that I did before, which was a flip through of the digital version of these books. And you can see a link to that video somewhere around here if you want the overview of what the books offer. I just started off camera to map out a couple of things, including the suggested size of the area that would be 20 by 28. And I am actually going to make it, there's going to be the entry to it's going to be water, and then there's going to be like an overland area because I do intend to play this, and I like to do the forest areas as well as cities, and there's water rules that I want to show you. So my little notes here are, I'm going to start by doing the town gates from the waterside borders, and then I'm going to go to Crucible of Classic Critters just to do a little outdoor northern border area. And then I'm going to come back here to give my town an ethnicity. And this is not necessarily the order that they are recommending, but I want my town to have an ethnicity. And then I'm going to go through and show you an example. We're not going to end up being able to create an entire town, but of the creation of at least part of a town or part of a city. The recommendation is to start with a hamlet. I'm also not doing that here because the hamlet is a smaller area with will demonstrate much fewer of the rules, and I want to show you as much of the rules as I feel I can. The other thing I'm probably going to do, at least for gameplay, if not in this video, is I received a copy of the Dungeoneer Design Journal in its form of a daily entry, and my plan is to use this at least in part to be my character sheets for my party, as well as expanding individual areas of the town as I go through them. Because basically when you create your town, you are instructed that each area is like a whole thing to play out. And so that is my overview of the plan, and we're going to start by taking a look at the waterside borders, which are in page 134 of the town table. Now we are going to go into a little bit of tome 2 here. This is what I did not show in my overview video because some of it is meant to be would be spoilers that would come up in gameplay. There are going to be, though, tables. If you want the tables to be totally fresh and you don't want to see any example of them, this would be probably the time to stop watching this video. But if you want an example of how to do a town, or at least how to get started at a town, join me as we go to the town table, the port town table, which is on page 134 of tome 2. And we could see here, this is basically an entry to the town, and it's a d6 roll, as you can see, familiar if you have played For Against Darkness. These types of pages will be familiar to you, but I'm going to create an entry, and it's going to be entry level 2. And so this is going to be how we get into my town. So I'm going to give that, get that onto my map, and we'll go from there. All right, we are back, and I've drawn in this square. I rotated it a little bit and I actually cut it off just to just to have it line up here. It's meant to be one more area down here. The key thing to note is this BU. And this is an icon that appears in, it's really not an icon, it's just letters, but these are called icons in the book. And moving back to tome 1, we can see that these are, this is the bully icon. Now, I don't know why it doesn't say BU, but this is what it is. That hostile glances meet you as you encounter menacing cutthroats. Roll on the NPC threatening Troublemakers table to see their type. See tome 2. I am going to do that, but before I do that, I want to go back to my plan for, so I've done this, I did the gates here, and then I did go to my Crucible of Classic Critters just to get, I sort of filled this in. It doesn't really matter, I think, if/when I actually move off in this direction and go into the wilderness, that might make more difference in terms of there's actual where the actual pathway is meant to be, but for now, we're dealing right here. So before we see who this bully is, now we're going to be entering the town this way. I want to go to the town ethnicity table because even though the rules say to roll this up only later, I want to roll it up now because I want that to be the framework for my town. All right, this is a 2d6, of course, so let's give this a roll, and we got a 7. So our town, it's going to be human. I don't want humans. I don't want humans. All right, I'm going to re-roll. So I'm showing you these re-rolls. When I do them, you can see that, oh, you know what? This is that bad die. This is that bad die with the 2 5s. I forgot about this. If you watch every video on my channel, you know what I'm talking about. I got to get this away. All right, starting over. Here we go. 5. It's going to be greenskin. So the town is going to be some type of greenskins, and we'll roll 3d6 to see exactly what sort they are. And we got 8, we got a 10 on that. So they're going to be goblorks. Now, I do have I'm pretty sure I have the 4AD book that has the goblorks in it. I know I do. I think it's the Mountainous Mayhem. Almost positive that's what it is. So we will take a look at the goblorks. It's a goblork town. All right. Now we're going to go and we're going to see what type of bully is guarding the port to this town. And to do that, we're going to roll on the threatening troublemakers table here. Okay. So this table is actually here, and it's like oddly unnumbered, I realize. So the die rolls are given this way. So we're going to roll on menacing monsters, and we got a 6 and a 3. So I guess this is a D66 table. And here we go. Ooh, a thorn lass. Also known as the Damsels of Thorns, were once the fairest daughters of the blue-haired queen. They are flower demons. They have town treasure +1. Those hit by their longing touch must save versus level 3 magic or sleep for level 3 days until the next mission. Okay. Now again, as mentioned, I am not going to be playing this in this video because there's enough to just show you how you develop it. But this is a great example to show you what you actually get. So we've got this goblork town guarded by this thorn lass, and I want to give my town a name, and I meant to do that earlier. And for that, I'm going to go to, I don't really have exactly what I want. All right, I just quickly pulled off Cartograph from my shelf to get a settlement name generator. It's 2 rolls of 3d8. So we have 11, 12, 13, Sallow, Sallow, 5, 10, Sallow Ridge. So our settlement name, our town name is going to be the town of Sallow Ridge. And maybe maybe this will be representative of the ridge. So we're going to go with that. It sounds suitably sort of treacherous, and maybe something that would be guarded by that character. All right, so we've labeled our town Sallow Ridge, and I've decided that I'm probably not going to use this for my characters per se, but I'm going to build out my encounters here. So the instructions are, this is the Thorn Lass. We're going to have we're going to have D6 plus 2 of them, and they're going to be at the HCL plus 2 minions. They are flower demons. We get a town treasure plus 1. Again, I don't have a party right now, but usually I probably would actually start this party at level 1. I often will start my party a little bit higher just to give them more stuff to do, but given the nature of this and how I can really see it becoming the foundation for a lot of different types of games and the setting to go back to for a lot of different games, maybe I will start at level 1 and figure out what type of characters I have. But meanwhile, this is just going to be my encounter 1. We've got this here. We're not even in the town yet. This is just the port entry. So the next thing we're going to do, and if you were playing this, you would have your encounter with these with these Thorn Lasses. And obviously you could choose if you wanted or not to incorporate some of the lore and the discussion and background you get on these characters into your game. And we looked at that a little bit. But for the purposes of this video, we're now going to move on, and we will be walking actually into the town and generating our first area of the town. So for this, we're going to go to Tome 2, just the very basic town tiles table, D66, and we'll just read it purple red. So we got 56, and tile 56 is going to be this right here, and it's got 2 icons, a B, a question mark, and a star. So I need to look up what all these are, and this is going to be what we immediately walk into right here. Okay, I misread that. That's actually a B minus, which is good because a B is a boss, but a B minus is a beggar. A question mark is going to direct you to a random table, and a star is going to be an event. So I just want to point out, I could see already a little bit. I wish there was, and maybe it's here and I'm missing it, but just one page that had all of these things listed, because there is some inconsistency. So I had to look through everything to find the question mark, since it's not, the question mark isn't like called out here the way, for example, this M is called out here. In any event, that is probably easily remedied by your own little, somebody's bound to make a file for that if it doesn't exist in the book. Maybe it does and I'm missing it. So the beggar icon, the beggars plead for D3 times your party's HCL in gold. If you refuse them, you roll this, and then their reaction is going to change to pickpocket. And we could look up what pickpocket is here. Optionally, you can roll on the sad beggar story subtable. Zillion Tables, Tome 2. Beggars will not attack if you refuse them, but will offend you with foul language. So that is an encounter that you would have. In any case, you would encounter the beggar there. And then we've got 2 random things. And one of them is so we've got the beggar coming in, depending on the way that you would organize this. We have the beggar coming in here. Then we've got the question mark and then the star. So the question mark in this case is going to be, as mentioned, a random roll. It says they are noted as question marks. Roll on the random icon table in the appendix to determine the icon's type the first time you enter the square. Okay, so the pickpocket icon here, well, this is the pickpocket event. You're going to make an L3 pickpocket save for each character every time your party enters this square, and it tells you what you will lose if you fail it. And as you attract more attention at expert tier and above, the save is going to increase to level 5. So that's what happens if you get pickpocketed. And the other option could be you can roll on the sad beggar story subtable if you want to get a little more narrative. So you will find that in Tome 2, as it says, and that is the sad beggar story subtable. It's a D6 roll, so let's just see what we would get. We got 1. So in this case, we have an invalid war veteran, got an arrow in the knee. So that's just going to give you some flavor as to who this beggar is. And again, if you were developing this town in an actual place, you could figure out, well, what type of war was that? Obviously, you could go outside of 4 AD to some type of kingdom or land or world building generator to go off and develop an entire war story. And this is a beggar or a refugee from that. All right, so a few points here. If we were actually playing this out, we would have encountered this bully here, this Thornlass, D6 plus 2 Thornlass, and we would have had that encounter and then moved into the city. And what we are starting to map out here is the first city block. So these 16 squares are the blocks of the city, and each of the individual blocks can contain various tiles, and within the tiles, you can have various buildings and things. So this is not at the same scale of 4 Against Darkness dungeon mapping, and I don't think I clearly said that. So I have basically transposed this block here to this tile here to a larger scale. And I didn't do it exactly accurately, but it's good enough. And we note here, as mentioned, we've got this is going to be a random event. So if we were coming up from the docks as we would first have this random event, and then there's going to be this random icon here that we would roll for, and then these are various shops. So when you go into a shop, you roll for a shop, and there is a kind of sequence of play for doing this. And if we were actually playing this out, we would be following that very closely, noting here that this is a window icon, and I think there was one down here too, but the significance of the window icon is that we can look from, if we enter this shop, we can look from this shop into the next area. And though you don't see an area here, indeed there is an area here, and this could become relevant. So I'm just going to continue on and sort of demonstrate the possibilities for what you can get on some of the tables before I kind of sum up my thoughts about this system. So in this particular case, if we were actually walking, I guess we would, the way this is lined up, the door is here and we come in around here. So we probably would go into this room first, into this shop first, or perhaps we would look down the alleyway and there would be an event here. Either way. Well, let's do the random event first. So we'll go to the random event table and roll on that and see what would be happening. So this is the town events table. It's a D66 table, and we will give this a roll, and we'll read blue and orange. And so we rolled a 65. So were we playing this out, we would love at first sight. A character of your choice encounters their ideal love partner and passion ensues. On a D8 roll of 1, this partner is a random impersonator, albeit their feelings for your character are genuine. It's funny that I rolled this because as I was preparing to do this segment of the video and thinking about my thoughts about 4 Against Darkness, I'm just going to digress into them for a moment. I absolutely love this system, except for the kind of love interest part of it. It's not that it offends my sensibilities. It's just I don't find it has a place in adventure gaming, or at least I don't want that to have a place in my adventure gaming. So for the things in all of the books that go into that, I just kind of skip over them, or if I can modify them, I do. I'm not really sure why the this is very generic love at first sight. It's a romance thing. It's not inherently like offensive to somebody. I don't like that in my gaming. The other aspect I might as well talk about here, which is that there are parts of these games, and you could even see here, betrayal, love, crime, lust, that people do find offensive, and they persist in the rule books, and I don't think they're going away. I'm not offended so much as I am just disinterested in this kind of sophomoric humor in my gaming. I think it's just, for lack of a better word, like just embarrassing, I guess, to just to gaming. Anyway, I rolled up something I don't want, and I'm just going to re-roll. I'm not having that event happen in my game. So again, we will read blue and orange 32, and so the event happening is, this is going to be a social event. There's going to be a faith festival. We're going to roll on the gods of Norendal table to see who is honored. And this is going to change the map. So it says for the next D3 days, all letter map icons but E become impassable crowds, except for this. So it's giving you a taste of how the map itself responds to the events. So in this particular case, what that means is, for example, our beggar icon here, and I guess even the random one, is going to be an impassable crowd because we have arrived at the town and there is a festival going on. And so we could roll on that table to see who's honored. And then it tells us, it gives us the further impacts of all of this. And then based on the god that you get, it will have further implications. So we can take a quick look at that table. So we take a look at the table and we roll on that, and it sends us to another table, and we get the name of that particular god, which may have an impact, a further impact on what happens in the town. So that is an example of what that particular town event was here. And this random icon, the question mark, is something we will get to. But now let's see what happens when you walk actually into a room. Now, this is a door. We did not really develop whether, I don't think in these particular rules they say, I think it's just a generic kind of door icon. You could obviously have locked doors. You could, I'm sure somewhere there is a, so if you bash the door, you're going to alert the town guards, but I don't think there's an indication of like a locked door or not. Maybe there is in the shop description. In any case, we have a door. We're going to go in and we're going to go to the next thing that we would do in entering a room. We're going to roll on the first thing you do when entering a room here is you're going to roll on the generic, the Overcity Room Content Shops table here. This is a 2d6, and again, I'm going to say what I said at the outset of the video. Obviously, there's spoilers here in the tables because I'm playing through it. So if you don't want to see what are in these rooms yet until you play, now would be the time to turn away before we look at entry 42. Oh, no, it's not entry 42. Excuse me. It's entry 6 here. Ooh, it's a food shop. Yummy. So we can roll 2d8 for its specialty here. And we're not going to necessarily do that. But so we have a food shop here. And then when you leave the store, now we could do that. Obviously, we could create a shopkeeper. There are NPC rules to do that. We could maybe buy something. We could look through the window here, perhaps, to see what else is going to be in the city. We've got this, if we were following this and we saw this event, maybe we don't want to deal with this raging mob here celebrating the god, and we want to kind of eat and run if we can. So we might be looking out here to see what there might be and do some sort of scouting out there. In any case, we would do whatever we did there, and then as you are leaving the room, you're going to roll a d6, and on a 1 to 3, you will get some type of event or shop twist. And I didn't get that. I got a 6. So in that case, we would just leave uneventfully. But I will show you what that, we'll do a roll on there to see what the shop twist would be. So if we got a 1 to 3 when we were leaving and we went to this table, it's a 3d6 table. So we will give that a roll and see. We got an 11. So in that case, it would be a personal request. The shopkeeper, embarrassed, has something awkward to ask you. Roll on the quests of pettiness table. Now, interestingly, when the rules at the outset for creating your first city, and they suggest that it be a hamlet, which has fewer rules and things that we'll get into what is missing from that in a moment, it says that your goal really here is just to pick up quests. So that is, we did pick up a quest, and we would then roll on the, I think it said the quest of pettiness table. That is just too good not to take a look at. Again, spoiler time if you don't want to know it. It's a D6 table, and I have to roll on it. 2. Heal my pretty one. Take the quest giver's sick pet to an herbalist, hospital, alchemist, or necromancer. You get 20 gold. A cleric's healing power works too. If you had a cleric maybe in your party, you could just do this. The quest giver notices necromancy use unless you succeed on a trickery save. If you fail, they'll fight to the death for turning their precious one into a zombie. The pet 3 life runs away whenever someone flees a combat. Use the rules for quest targets. This is option 7 for its current whereabouts. Reward. Your fee is 2 clues and roll on the creepy convolutions table. So I'm not going to obviously do any of that, but you could see here. Well, I should say I am going to do this off camera because I am going to be playing in this. I am going to be playing in this town. As mentioned, I haven't yet made my party. This is not the order in which you would do it, but that's the order in which I'm going to do it because I want to play in this town. But you can see how this really comes alive. You could obviously opt to, if you were so inclined, draw this entire room out or label it in some way and have notes about it. I mean, you could do, I happen to be using this notebook. You could use anything, obviously, to keep track of the details, but you could see where there is just such detail, and this is considered just like, this whole thing is just considered a block. Now, I live in one of the densest populated cities in the world, and even that would be quite a lot in one block, but that's the terminology here. It really, to me, feels more like a city neighborhood with a lot of intertwining streets and such. In any case, that's just this one room right here. That's it. That's all we got so far. And a lot's going on. We got a quest. We have something to do. There are rules to tell us how to solve that quest if we didn't happen to have a healer with us. So then we'll maybe do one more final thing. We'll just show you how this is the random icon, and the random icon has its own table, and it is, so when you have a map that has the question mark in it, you need to roll here. This is a 2d6 roll that you add up. And so in our case, we got a 5. So that random icon then turns into, a pickpocket. Now, interestingly, we have the beggar up here. We have the beggar up here. And here, it's easier to see here. You may recall that we have a beggar up here, and one of those possibilities is a pickpocket, and now this is turning into a pickpocket. So thematically, I guess it makes sense. Maybe these are two beggars or pickpockets in league with one another, and we will have to deal with them here. So maybe this isn't the greatest part of town, but we have maybe picked up some great food. Remember, we have this little pet now that we are carrying if we chose to do that, and we need to deal with the pickpockets. We don't want to lose the pet, and we're going to continue on. And that is just one, not even an entire tile of a block in Sallow Ridge. Again, as I mentioned, in locating my town in this bigger world, we have the forest here, the ridge here. I got this from the Curious Critters, whatever it's called, but I realized that, in fact, more mountainous mayhem is the way to go for what is beyond here, because this is going to have a ridge. These are the crags and things. And that to me is more in line with a town called Sallow Ridge than anything else. So I didn't want to get too much into the rules in this video, but I do want to just touch on this entire chapter on factions. I can't remember in my flip through video of these books when I first got the electronic version, whether I went into detail here, but I know I touched on it because it's an all or nothing thing. And basically it is meant to simulate a web of politics and allegiances by splitting the townsfolk into political and religious groups in conflict with each other. And it says they're a central mechanic of the system. They represent your standing, either positive or negative, with the town's most powerful groups. And what you're meant to do is when you are creating your town and when you are rolling up these town tiles here, if you roll an 11 to 16, that becomes a mansion tile. And the mansion tile is going to be where the faction is going to be. And then you go to there's a faction table and you roll up to see what faction it is. And then you can get quests from them. You can have gain or lose favor from them. And, you start out as a neutral with all of the factions, but you will get, if you interact this way, those will change over the course of the game. And then the modifiers that you get from the factions will be impacting other things in the game. So it's a way of the bigger picture, the factions where are coming up with the noble estates, which, as I said, are generated on this roll of 11 to 16, is going to be the first mansion you encounter will be that block ruler's main mansion where that lives. And then you will deal with that faction when you are in this area of the town. And moving on into another area, there could be potentially another faction, and how you deal with this may impact roles and things because there are modifiers that will impact in the other area of the town. So this leads me naturally into my thoughts not only on these two books, but on For Against Darkness as a whole. For these books, and I guess let me give you some of the context. I just counted them up. I own 17 books in the For Against Darkness series, in addition to the main rule book, as well as 2 pretty extensive fan-made supplements for Against Darkness. I've done 10 videos on this game. This, I think, will be my 11th video on the game, and you could see them in the For Against Darkness playlist that I have. And I have been playing the game almost since it came out. It was funny because early on when the game came out, I didn't make any videos on this game for a long time, and people would constantly write in. I did a lot on D100 Dungeon and other kind of related types of games, and people would say, like, why don't you like For Against Darkness? Why don't you, play it, just assuming, as people do, the worst. And basically I didn't make videos about it for a long time because there were so many. And at the beginning of my channel, especially, I tried to only make videos about games where there were no videos. So I didn't make a lot of videos on it. It had nothing to do with my feeling about the game, because I adore this game. And in fact, now that I have tallied up exactly how many books I've purchased and how much time I've spent on it, I would venture to guess this is the game that I have spent the most money on, because I don't do Kickstarter. So I don't own like $350 boxes of games. Don't do Kickstarters. And I have spent well over $200 on For Against Darkness of my over the course of the time that it's been out. And there's things I want to buy for it that I don't have, that I just don't buy because I feel like I'm spending a lot on it. So that's a background, only to say that I'm pretty familiar with this system. I have played it a lot. I have modified the rules a lot. I have, and I think this is in at least one of my videos, already done a kind of pairing together of a dungeon area, walking through a town area, going to the mountains, and kind of therefore cobbling together like an overland sort of travel with a party. And I'm pretty sure I showed a little of that in one of my videos. Having said all that, having had all this familiarity with the system and being familiar with a lot of its content, Treacheries of the Troublesome Towns completely changes the game. It offers so much new material. It offers a totally different way of thinking about your characters. It is both expansive and detailed. What you get in the books allows you to just completely revolutionize and change the way you interact with and the way you play this game. And especially if you own a lot of the other content, you can spend a lot of time figuring out how to mix in the content you have with what is offered here. So for example, just to give an example of what I rolled up here with the shopkeeper with the little quest with her pet, there was one random roll that said something about like if you have a necromancer or whatever. If you did that and you owned, for example, like I have this, the digressions of the Devouring Dead, you could just take that little quest and somehow find a way to make a story to bring it right into this book for, I don't know, a couple of rooms or something, a couple of rolls on these tables or something. And maybe you took the journey with that pet and maybe you secretly did try to turn that pet and give it back to the shopkeeper and you kept a journal and notes about that so that when you came back to that area of the town, it impacted your travel there. That would be up to you. You know, that would be up to you to do. The structure for doing that is here. And I think to that end, to make the best use of these books, you do need both of them, as you can clearly see, is to spend some time really in, I think it's chapter 2, or chapter 4, becoming really familiar with what's called the situational rules here, so that you know. Now, of course, you could do whatever you want, but so that you could know what the mechanic is for doing something. And, oh, a building can go on fire, or there could be a curse in the building, or there could be, you know, what do I do? There could be a maze, or there could be, I could split up the party. I could find stolen goods. That's the kind of joy of this system. The rules are super simple, but when you encounter a rule, then you can kind of look at your party and think like, okay, how do I interact with that? What party member is going to be give me the best chance to interact with that rule? Yes, it's in most cases just a simple D6 roll and you add something, but that's not really the point, or maybe that is the point, that with that super simple mechanic and your 4 characters that you develop that have all this stuff, you have an interaction with a character, an event, and a very simple mechanic that gives some chance element to it. And that is the core of the gameplay and really the joy of the gameplay. And I think why it is so successful, it's least successful for my gaming taste, because you can develop a story out of this super easily and not be spending a ton of time adding, subtracting modifiers and things. You can look at your character and get a sense of what they have to offer and what they can do, and then they can go do it. So that has been the case here with this game over the course of time as the different types of books have been released. Like, for example, this one we looked at earlier, which also kind of took it, I think, in a different direction than some of the other books had up until that point. And yet the Treacheries of the Troublesome Towns really just does it completely, just takes it to a totally other level. If you are a 4 Against Darkness fan, I said this in my first video on these books, like this is basically a must-have for you because it will extend the possibilities that much farther. The one caveat is that if you have concerns about having material that is sort of not family friendly, that is, for better or worse, baked into these books. So it's kind of it's there. You can avoid it or ignore it as I do, but if you don't want to see it at all, then these books are not for you because they're not, as a whole, they're not family friendly. I'm going to stop. I want to play Four Against Darkness. That's what I want to do. And I hope you've enjoyed this look inside the beginnings of creating a town using the Treacheries of the Troublesome Towns new books. And if there is interest later on, people can let me know in the comments if you want to see another video way down the road where I kind of go over the party that I made and some of the adventures that they had. You can let me know in the comments about that. And as always, thanks for watching.